How's it going, everybody? In today's video, we're going to be going over the best characters to bring to Gear Tier 20. This is not just for the Professor X saga, but for gameplay everywhere, to make sure you're taking advantage of that overpowered mechanic, or not getting overpowered, which is actually the real case for most of us, right? So we're going to go beyond the Professor X best characters, but we will give nods to who we think are the best for Professor X along the way so nobody is confused. Let's go over some of the criteria I go through when I do this sort of a video, though. Which and how many game modes am I using them in? Character gameplay impact. What is the actual impact of that character having not just the additional stats from Gear Tier 20, which is like 20% damage, health, 4% focus and resist, but also the overpowered. Are they getting wrecked? Are they going to be wrecking people? What sort of matchups are they taking, right? And then, of course, the gear cost. We look at a character like Apocalypse that costs 5, a character like Jean Grey that costs 3. What's the value difference there? What kind of extra squeeze can I get by maybe not doing Apocalypse and going for other characters? Alright, let's go ahead and we'll start with this Skill Gear Tier 20. Now, Skill Gear is one of the most highly demanded gears for the Professor X saga. But once you actually finish those skill characters, it becomes a lot more open. And there's not actually as many skill characters to Gear 20 as there are other traits, believe it or not. So the best character is the Gear 20. Of course, you have to do Lilandra for the Professor X unlock, but she's also amazing in Crucible, so that's actually worth it. Silver Sable might as well be a required trait for Professor X, but also that Vigilante team, which is why we do have Punisher and Daredevil also in that S tier. Absolutely phenomenal everywhere. Absolutely phenomenal everywhere, okay? Endgame Thanos is proving to be the biggest thorn in our sides when it comes to facing him in PvE. And, you know, there's a lot of people also complaining, my 3-star Fantastic Four team is getting one shot by people's 3-diamond Endgame Thanos. He's going to be a really annoying character for a very long time. Silence plus Trauma can kind of stop him outside of Arena. You know, inside Arena, he can't gain Trauma because of a certain attributes of his kit. But I digress. Very, very good character. Very, very powerful. And he kind of has this sort of, you know, Three Musketeers team going on with the Phoenix Force right now. So I don't think Endgame Thanos is losing any value anytime soon. Plus, it doesn't hurt that we've now kind of shifted our BioGear priority away from cosmic villains and into cosmic heroes, as we're going to talk about in a little bit. And then there's Peggy Carter. Again, these are kind of like the S tier is where I go like, okay, like these characters you want to bring for Professor X, but also give you so much value elsewhere. Peggy Carter, that Liberty team is still kind of like hard required for the global hero section of Professor X. Not required, but like it's nightmare fuel without it. So let's move on now to talk about some of the characters you would bring to Gear 20 as far as skill goes after Professor X unlock, right? Hitmonkey. So we've already done 3 of our Vigilante members. Hitmonkey is a huge damage dealer. You also cannot have him die before he gives out his big buffs. And obviously, if he dies for a Silver Saber takes a turn, her ultimate is no longer anywhere near as impactful. So bringing him higher is very, very good. Very, very good. Then we got Black Knight. You do not want to bring Black Knight to Professor X. That's why he is a strictly after Professor X saga. But being that he's a pre-taunting tank, and he does do that in Massive Retaliate, he has extreme value for Gear Tier 20. Pre-Ares stack characters, so there is a little bit of concern there, but he seems to be kind of weathering that storm still, and Gear Tier 20 is definitely helping solidify that. Not to mention, if you want to be using this guy with Illuminati in Crucible, he is now fulfilling that need where he has a higher damage stat than Black Panther Shuri, and so Old Man Logan can no longer counter the Illuminati team. Now we start getting to even more niche picks, alright? Captain Sam, Taskmaster, this can go either way. Kind of depends which modes you value more. Taskmaster is obviously a raid character, but he's proving to be very useful in war, either with the Mercs team taking on Absolute members, or possibly with the Underworld and Dawkins taking out Fantastic Four. So there's actually a lot of value in Taskmaster still. But I keep going back to that Liberty team. So if you want to bring extra Liberty characters to the Professor X unlock, he definitely helps you there. And then that Liberty team, as a war team, is going to have the longest lifespan in the game. Think about this. We get a new raid every 6 months, apparently, if they go on the current cadence they're on. So how long will Thunderbolts actually exist in that capacity? Kind of questionable. War teams, it's more like 3 years, especially if they keep putting out these subpar, like Crucible and raid teams where they don't really flex good into war. It just helps extend the life cycle of these war teams. And it doesn't hurt that the full Liberty team does get a whack load of buffs in Crucible on the first enemy turn. So they're actually proven to be pretty good, if not for a kind of YOLO win attempt, if like nothing else, a good burn attack, right? The Liberty team is actually one of the best teams that they put out this year, so got to give the flowers to them. And Captain Sam, he hits like an absolute truck. Then we got Black Cat. Now, some people are super high on Black Cat right now. Yeah, she's the best Professor X Fantastic Four counter ever. Listen, just look at the matches, like really look at those arena matches, and try and understand that you're just leading into a coin flip here or a coin flip there. That's all the real differences. Now, Black Cat does get really good value in Crucible, so I do kind of see putting her Gear 20 makes a little bit of sense there. But if she gets her buff flips, like say it's a Gear 20 Black Cat, and she loses the coin flip to Songbird ults, those bleeds kill that Black Cat, whether she's Gear Tier 20 or not. She could be Gear Tier 25, those bleeds are still going to kill her. Like, the new stack characters just absolutely dumpster her in that regard. But I get it, so I had to put her on this list. She's low priority for me. She does what you want her to do in that arena capacity without actually needing Gear Tier 20. Alright, Hawkeye. Obligatory, I have to put him on there, okay? But by obligation, I have to put Hawkeye on this list because I'm still fighting for that West Coast Avengers team, that Hawkeye rework, the last Wave 1 Avenger to get the love that he truly deserves. It was said in chat earlier, the Avengers actually kind of have a losing streak without Hawkeye in the MCU. With him, big dubs. Come on, Scopely, make it happen. And then Elektra, look, we talked about the Vigilante team. Elektra is technically a skill character, but she doesn't actually use tech gear. Or sorry, skill gear. Skill character. She doesn't use skill gear. She uses Mystic Gear. So she's not actually in this conversation. She would be part of the Mystic Gear conversation. Anyway, let's move on over now to the tech section. Now, obviously, different characters for tech. Tech is, oh man, the thing about the tech gear and the Professor X saga is tech seems to be that origin that's kind of all over the place. You can use it to fit like global villain stuff, to fit some cosmic hero stuff as well. It's kind of like the catch-all right now, whereas Fantastic Four is really heavy into that cosmic hero section. We have a lot of skill gear going into that city hero section, so it kind of goes a lot more all over the place, which I think is a little bit interesting. But I still think there's some like no-brainer characters. Falcon Joaquin, we talked about Peggy Carter, that Liberty team with the Global Hero section. I think he might just be downright necessary because of the anti-speed bar he does to Logan, and because he'll give buffs to the other Liberty members that you bring along the way. The Liberty team they're just too powerful in that Global Hero section with those war rules turned on and activated even if they don't have their full team members. So Falcon Joaquin makes that list, so that's good. All right, Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck was an absolute awesome character to bring to Gear 220. Really helped my Crucible matches for sure. With the Fantastic Four team and being forced to bring the Landra, he's not like you have to bring him for Professor X anymore. You could bring him for Professor X. You don't need to bring 3 Fantastic Four members, right? So you could bring Howard to help you in that regards if you don't have the right amount of bio gear going forward, or if you had to use bio gear on the Cosmic Villains section beforehand. But afterwards, amazing character. Starjammer team is actually really good in Crucible. Once they get scaled up, it's kind of bonkers. Lady Deathstrike, 2-cost global villain section, really powerful in her own right outside of her team. 127 speed stat with the devastating turn meter on. She keeps trying to find ways to just like absolutely wreck the meta. And so I had to give her that S tier status. The Orcus team, maybe 3-4 months ago, they all would have been S tier for this list. Not anymore. Things change really fast in this game. The global villain section kind of got cracked open with a bunch of these recent teams that came out. But Lady Deathstrike still would be top of that list. Kang the Conqueror, yeah, really old character, but really versatile. Giving that speed bar on spawn, being a very fast character that could put slow out instantly. Got to give him his flowers for that. And his stock went way up for the Professor X unlock with the addition of the Fantastic Four members. Not a lot of great cosmic villains to pull from for that section. So if you want to avoid using Biogear on Gladiator and Gore, Kang's the guy to do it. Lots of people have gotten through the game mode with Kang, and on the other side would use him in War as plug and play, or obviously Crucible with Cabal Apocalypse, or even just on his own. Lots of value there, and I'm going to be interested to see Kang's value when it comes to Blastar, actually, because Kang has a really strong basic attack, and he's really fast in Crucible, so he can help get Blastar off to the races. So Kang's stocks just went up for sure. Omega Sentinel, she's really good plug and play defense for now. Rachel Summers is going to kind of take that away from her when Rachel Summers gets added to the Immortal X-Men, but Omega Sentinel still has a lot of good plug-and-play use as she could stun tech and mutant characters out the gate. So as far as Global Villain goes, I think that it still makes sense to bring her. She's unfortunately the one character I didn't bring. That makes me sad. I have my entire Orcus team geared to 20 except for Omega Sentinel. What a mistake that was. Alright, there's other options for the Professor X. Now the tech one's tough, because it's not like, oh, S tier's Professor X, ABC is not. No, that's not really the case. Because if I was doing Professor X now, I would do Iron Patriot over most of the Orcus members. I love the damage he gives to villains in Crucible. I love that he puts vulnerables out up on spawn, and I think the Cabal team actually would benefit so much more from Overpower than the Orcus team does, both in War and Crucible. Obviously not Raids, but I think the Raid team is going to be phasing out Orcus anyway, if I'm not crazy. It will be, let's be real. So yeah, I do like Iron Patriot in that Global Villain section. Hank Pym, I don't really like him in the Global Hero section. I know people got through it with hundreds and hundreds of resets, but outside of Professor X game mode, when we're talking about Cosmic Crucible, having him at gear 20 so he's not getting one shot, but also just so his heals are way higher, very impactful. That Illuminati team, as we're going to see on this list, even though they're pre-Ares stats, they're still hanging on. I still think they're a top team in Crucible, and they actually can get down in War really well as well. Alright, Nimrod. Nimrod, definitely falling off, right? Definitely falling off. Fast-ish character. You put him with the Orcus team, obviously that's going to evolve him up a little bit. If he gets an attack off, it is absolutely devastating. So I wanted to put him up on this list, but in a month or two from now, he may just not even be. He may not be B, C, D. He may be completely gone. It's really going to depend how the raids shake up. Alright, then we got B tier, Sentinel and Green Goblin Classic. Yeah, Sentinel will be the same conversation as Nimrod, so let's just move on from that. Green Goblin Classic, listen, there's a really fun world where we get a Green Goblin Classic rework for this Spider-Verse villain team coming up. Hopefully they stick the lane on that. Green Goblin, such a fun character, great kit. It would suck for them to bypass him on that. But even if they do, when it comes to War and Crucible, having this character as kind of your MVP on your Sinister Six team, doing that extra damage, not getting absolutely crushed by some sort of retaliation, could be the difference between winning and losing. So Green Goblin actually really high up there. Yeah, him and Black Cat kind of hanging in there. Nova, nowhere to be seen. Which is funny because his team's name is nowhere. Anyway, moving on to C, we got Falcon and Scientist Supreme. Scientist Supreme in a couple months will not be on this list, right? So probably just don't do her, honestly. Falcon with that Mighty Avenger team. Would the Mighty Avengers lose the extra damage they get from Avengers in War? It's going to happen one day, right? They're going to fall off an absolute cliff. Falcon on that team is such a game changer with his damage. I know a couple of people who put Gear 220 on him now with the Avengers buff, and their experience with Mighty Avengers is a lot different than my experience with Mighty Avengers. So I wanted to put him up there, but it's pretty much strictly for War and strictly for that Mighty Avengers team. So if you've not gone all in on them, like, I wouldn't do him. With that said, lots of people did bring OG Falcon into the Global Hero section, Professor X, and they had pretty good success. So take with that what you will. Vision, the Mighty Avenger conversation, we just kind of had that. If you don't care about Mighty Avengers, don't think about it. War Machine, if you're going to be doing a lot of your Liberty members, which I think you should be doing for the Global Hero section, Professor X, that extra character is great, but he is the first character to get subbed out for a Mephisto if you're facing off against like an absolute Odin, Dormammu, something like that, or Endgame Thanos, Dormammu. He does get subbed out quite often, but I wanted to put him on here because he is an absolute unit when it comes to damage. Wasp and Ironheart OG, if you're using them with the old A-Force team, there's lots of value to be had there, taking out like B-tier war teams, but that's about it. So I wanted to put them on this list, but very, very low. Big Time Spider-Man, look, some crazy person brought Big Time Spider-Man into the Professor X event, and they're like, oh, he's the best character in the game. He's not. All right, I put him on this list because he's usable there. It doesn't mean you should. What is the real value you're getting out of a Gear Tier 20 Big Time Spider-Man? He gets the extra focus on his ultimate already. He's still super squishy. I don't see it. I put him on this list just pretty much just talk shit. He's a terrible character. You shouldn't put him in Gear Tier 20. You should want to wait a week or 2 weeks more farming that Intel or Antimatter store to take a different tech character instead of Big Time Spider-Man. You're just hurting your roster at that point. If you care about PvP. If you care about PvP modes at all, I guess would be the qualifier. Vulture I threw up here. He's kind of symptomatic of the Sinister Six team. There's lots of tech characters. I wouldn't do any Sinister Six members until we see what this new Spider-Verse villain team is going to be about that RJ alluded to in one of the strike spots. All right, let's move on over to Mystic now. Mystic is absolutely stacked. Absolutely stacked. And it's a tough one to stomach. Okay. Quasar, Null, Blade, and Oath. I think it is absolutely silly not to take them into the Professor X event. I think their value in all game modes is crazy. I don't know how they'll phase out the Night Stalker team in the next raid tier. I know they're probably going to try, but I don't know how they do that when you can add in a character like an Odin, like a Mephisto. But yeah, take a video. Those 4 characters, we don't need to have a conversation. Just amazing Professor X characters. Amazing everywhere characters. I absolutely love them. Absolutely love those characters. Now it gets tough. Because we get really niche into some game modes. Or we get really expensive. So Odin, Mephisto, obviously amazing in all the game modes. People think Odin is out of the arena meta. He's absolutely not. Slap Striker on your Odin. If he has a higher damage stat than your Professor X, he will alleviate a lot of that pressure. And will help you if you lose the Professor X coin flip. As long as your Professor X doesn't get ability block, you can still win. As long as your Professor X wasn't beat up along the way from the mind controls from the enemy Professor X. So Odin still has a lot of value in my opinion. He's just expensive. Same thing with Mephisto. Now that you can actually directly promote Mephisto, hopefully you got him to 3 diamonds now that we have that sort of cheap phase going on right now. Lots of great value with those 2 characters. Kahori! Kahori just got a new partner in crime for Crucible. Blastar! Yes, when Kahori does her basics, going to give Blastar that Bomb Blast stacks. There'll be a lot of interesting things there. The problem, of course, is in Crucible, there's so many ways to control speed bar. We're not sure how that's going to go. But Kahori doubles up as a war unit, to be sure. If you have him on defense or offense, you know the Absolute team is great. We're going to see a couple more of those newer Absolute members in a little bit. She's got a good value. And if you can get her to pop off, it's even better. Now we get sketchy, right? We start talking about the Accursed characters. If you like Crucible, the Accursed are an amazing team. If you don't max out the Accursed are a shitty team. Listen, eventually you're going to get the stars and the diamonds on Accursed. That's going to solve itself in time. But if you don't have these guys at gear tier 20, just a fast team, and Azazel does not fix this, by the way. Just a fast team, Invisiwoman and Franklin come in, and if they're at gear tier 20, which they probably will because they're arena and they're so good everywhere, and you're not gear tier 20 on somebody like Santana or on Hood, you're just going to get completely demolished. And as soon as you're demolished, you start losing all the different passive defenses that like Hood gives and Santana gives. And that's just bad, right? So the Accursed characters, they're all up here. Helvering Juggernaut would be the first 2 that I do. Hood would be the next, because Hood does do a lot of pew-pew damage with his ultimate. Eventually, we're going to get a, you get the ult turn 1 Crucible rule. It's just a matter of time. So we're going to see a lot of value with him when that happens. And Santana doesn't benefit from the gear 20 at all, right? She's all percentage damage, except she doesn't get one shot by overpower. It sucks that this is something that we have to take into consideration now, but it is. Santana makes the list, but all the way down at C. Let's go back up to B tier, though. Let's talk about these Illuminati members. We talked about it a little bit when we were going over Hank. We got a cheap version in Captain Britain, 2-piece Mystic Gear. Black Panther Shuri's 3-piece, right? That team has not fallen off yet. I do have concerns that they will be falling off, but Captain Britain will stop Blastar's speed bar stuff. So like I'm not sure they're falling off just yet. I think the Illuminati team still has at least another year in the tank as far as Crucible goes. It could be that they just become a defensive headache. Right now, putting them on defense does pull like a Starjammers or a Cursed. We'll put in Gear Tier 20 on your Illuminati team, save them from Starjammers or a Cursed? No, it won't. But if they try doing something else, something sillier, then you'll get a lot of value there. Night Stalker, let's talk about Blade and Oath. I wish I could Gear Tier 20 my Agatha, but all the other characters on this list, I've already done. Like I did my entire Accursed team because I'm so big on Crucible. Agatha, great character. Lots of damage comes out of her, especially when she's Gear Tier 20. She is that post-airy stats, right? But yeah, it's just too stacked for me to have her done, but I had to put her up on B tier. Same thing for Man-Thing. Man-Thing has got that pre-taunt status. You cannot have our pre-taunts getting yeeted out the gate. So him not being Gear Tier 20 absolutely hurts your efficiency when you try and use this team. So I wanted to throw him up there. Ares. Hey, now that people are getting some diamonds on Ares, there's definitely seeing a lot more value from this character. In a Gear Tier 20, he hits like an absolute truck. Like an absolute truck. Mordo, look, Mordo just got kicked off his own team, like, after a month and a half of being on it. I did Gear Tier 20 Mordo. I feel like an absolute fool. I'll probably want to slot Azazel in there over Mordo in 90% of the situations that I use the team. So don't do him. But he's good. He's good. Doctor Strange. I think Doctor Strange is kind of a slept-on sleeper unit. Doctor Strange having that, you know, my ally died, so I got energy and I'm reviving everybody. There's a lot of trickery you can do there. A little bit of RNG can go a long way. But if he's Gear Tier 19 and he just gets blown up immediately, then you're kind of not getting that value, right? So wanted to throw him on there, just a little niche pick. Same thing with Hercules. We talked about it when we talked about Falcon and Vision. And then there's Cosmic Ghost Rider. If you don't know, Cosmic Ghost Rider's passive in war is an absolute headache. Obviously, people like to throw Vigilante at it, but there's teams to put with Cosmic Ghost Rider where that's no longer a option. There's just a lot of teams where you can bait them to use Mighty Avengers, and Cosmic Ghost Rider is just like, stop right now, thank you very much. I need somebody with a human touch. Anyway, Spice Girls for life. There's a lot of value in that. Okay, let's move on over now to the BioGear. This is absolutely super stacked with the new characters coming out, especially Blaster and Fantastic Four members. But we can't skip the Liberty. We talked about Peggy. We talked about Falcons. Both Falcons. Not OG Falcon, but Captain Sam Falcon and Falcon Joaquin. Patriot, definitely a huge character on that Liberty team. Lots of good damage, and he helps in that Global Hero section for sure. 3 Fantastic Four members. You might notice I'm putting Johnny above Reed. This is not a subjective thing. Johnny Storm is just pulling more value in Arena. He's pulling more value in Crucible. He's pulling more value in War. The fact that when Speed says on the table, he is setting up Franklin to ult with offense up into defense down is huge. The assist damage is huge. The fact that he is 127 speed stat instead of, I don't even know what Reed is, like 4 speed stat, okay? It's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, that's 4. They all get put up there. We have too many Cosmic Heroes put up in the S tier for the Professor X saga, so kind of take your pick. You don't need to 3-star the Professor X Cosmic Hero section. Don't forget that. But yeah, they all make S tier. Franklin and Sue. What else am I supposed to say about that? What am I supposed to say about that? All right. Songbird. Songbird, biometrics should be S tier. She should maybe be at the height of S tier. The only reason she's not is because I know people who have brought Songbird in to the Global Hero section and they curse her for flipping their buffs. Now, when your Songbird is 6 stars, you can recover that. Like if you get Songbird at 6 stars, which she's gonna be farmable at some point, right? She's currently in the Battle World store and in the Ultimate store. I'm sure you're gonna be able to get her 6 stars if you haven't already. So she is Professor X viable, in my opinion. I love Songbird. Use her everywhere. I'm so happy that I brought her to Gear 20. Can't speak highly enough about her. She should probably be S tier. All right, we got Blastar. Remnix has Songbird at 6-star free to play. There you go, as a new player. Blastar. I have some concerns about Blastar. Blastar being very speed bar and speed stat reliant in Crucible and boasting the same speed stat as Professor X means that he's probably not going to be a good Professor X counter in Crucible the same way Quasar is in War. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. Blastar, unlike Quasar, he's trying to benefit from speed mechanics as opposed to stopping speed mechanics. And that becomes a problem, in my opinion. I think he's still going to do insane damage. I think he'll become a Master Key for any sort of B+ and lower team. But there's a lot of concern there still. Him and Gohori are going to be great, for sure. We're going to be using them every Crucible, make no mistake about it. So having no Gear 20 is only going to benefit us. But if I am still hunting for Professor X, am I using my BioGear on Blastar for the Cosmic Villain section? Or am I saving it for the Cosmic Hero section for Fantastic Four? I think you know where I'm going with this one. Reed Richards. Listen, I just poo-pooed all over Reed Richards when it comes to him against Johnny, but I don't want to say Reed's bad. As a pre-taunting tank, he sucks against Professor X. But when Professor X is not there, different story. When speed sets on the table and you have that pre-taunt, it can get hard to work around him. Now, we're going to talk about a mutant character that kind of dumpsters Fantastic Four even when Professor X is not around. So you start losing a little bit more value there too, but I do think that just Reed Richards, by virtue of his new stats and his pre-taunting tank status, he had to be put up on this list, and the same will go for Gladiator. Gladiator has the added benefit of being a villain, so he's not stopped by like the Accursed team, which I think is good. Gladiator, Lots of people are saying Gladiator is dead in the meta because Rachel Summers is coming out. Rachel Summers is going to stop Safeguard and Immunity in all game modes. Rachel Summers is not going to chase Gladiator all over the place unless Gladiator is with, like, Phoenix Force, right? Unless Gladiator is with a team that Immortals wanted to beat anyway. So you're just going to shift your Gladiators around or you'll use them on offense. Whatever the case may be, Gladiator is still that pre-taunting Infinity Watch tank. Still gets defense up on spawn. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Reed has 30% more HP than Gladiator. That doesn't hurt either. We got the Undying members. The Undying members you always have to look at because every year we get a new one. We know Zombie Kestrel is coming. Their war value is going to skyrocket. We're going to see what they do to their stats. Last time when we got Zombie Scarlet Witch, we didn't really see a big enough bump in Juggernaut's stats, in my opinion. Hopefully we will this Halloween, and he'll be up there with Gladiator and Reed Richards as far as health and tankiness goes. But yeah, I'd love to see some more love into Juggernaut. We got some more tanks. We got our Groot and we got our Mr. Marvel Classic. I guess tanks in name only. I don't think either of them are actually protectors. We got a Crucible character in Groot. Amazing. Does a lot of damage at Gear Tier 20. Can pose a lot of problems efficiency-wise at Gear Tier 20 as well. At Gear Tier 19, he just becomes paper real fast, right? People just shred through him. So you lose a lot of value there. Would I bring him up for Professor X? No. This is definitely an after. Professor X is unlocked after your Fantastic Four is built up, after your Blast Star, your Songbird. Like, the bio section is really stacked, as you can see, right? Miss Marvel Classic, if you haven't done her already, you would only do her if you really like War. Definitely not a Crucible scene anymore. Gore. Gore has the value with Null, right? There's a lot of value for Gore with Null. But I think Null also, he kind of plays more with other characters these days, trying to hunt down Mephistos, or just doing maybe some speed stat teams, which Gore can kind of mix in with, but Gore's in an awkward spot, especially with Invisible Man now in the game. At 129, he doesn't go before Songbird, so he's not getting defense down out for her in time. He's not going before, like, he only has a single target defense down. He can kind of get rid of battlefield effects, but it goes before, like an Odin goes, so it's a really weird positioning. So Gore is kind of losing a lot of value in my opinion, which sucks. He's such a cool character in the comics. But yeah, he had to get knocked on this list a little bit. Thing, Fantastic Four, the whole team's bonkers, all right? If you play War competitively at all, Thing is amazing. Thing with that freaking, that Yancey Street, slobber knocking, clobbering time, get wrecked, motions in his special, love him. Can't say anything bad about him, except that doesn't really see use in Crucible or in Arena at all, right? So if you're a War lover, Thing is, he's a good thing to bring up. Okay, we got Medusa. Medusa, if you haven't already done the Absolute A-Force team, I'm not sure if this is a great idea at this point. She's got plug-and-play value in War. Great character. Stops death proofs on spawn, which is interesting, right? Yeah, I don't know what else to say much about Medusa. Really hard-hitting character, can be super annoying. The problem with me and the Absolute A-Force team is they're predominantly on defense when it comes to War, so it loses a lot of value for me. I think she would be higher if she was an offensive character. Super Skrull. Gear Tier 20 will not save your Super Skrull from getting one shot, but it will make him do a tad bit more damage. So wanted to put him up there. If you can start baiting really bad teams into a Gear Tier 20 Super Skrull, you can maybe get a couple wins, but I think Super Skrull's going to be making his way to offense soon, which does increase his value, for me anyway. Sasquatch. Alright, Sasquatch, people want to put a Gear Tier 20 because they love putting Sasquatch with like a Professor X team in Crucible, right? I don't think Gear Tier 20... No, I don't. Not that I don't think. I know. A Gear Tier 20 Sasquatch does not stop a Gear Tier 20 Songbird, who's at like 5 or 6 stars, from pushing the Sasquatch below that 75% threshold and making him drop his taunt. Right? So there's not an incredible value there, but he is that pre-taunt. I wanted to include him on this list because I see a lot of people doing it, a lot of people using it, but I just don't see the value as far as like the hierarchy goes. It would be a extreme luxury pick. Leader, we put Iron Patriot on here. I put Leader on here because I do think the Cabal team would benefit a lot from Gear 20 in Crucible. I don't think the Cabal team will have the same lifespan as the Illuminati, though, so they are low on the list. Then we have Hyperion. Hyperion is a stand-in for Victoria Hand here as well. Victoria Hand, though a tech bio character, uses bio gear. I've seen the Thunderbolts do really good attacks in Crucible, but they're all completely maxed out, and I think it is such a giant luxury, I don't want to promote it at all. To me, it's just do Songbird as a plug-and-play character, and as soon as you pull Songbird off the Thunderbolts team, they fall to shit. So I wanted to put it up here because I think it's just a unbiased fact. I think it is so niche and so luxury Kraken snacky, I don't want to include it. I don't want to include it there. All right, so let's just say that. All right, let's just do that. Now let's finish up strong with the Mutant Gear Tier 20. Mutant is another completely stacked. You see this S tier is bonkers. The S tier and A tier here is absolutely stacked. We got a lot of new characters. We got a lot of oldies here too, but Mutant is the hardest one for me, honestly. Professor X, I mean, get it done. Yeah, I will not forget to mention Namor. Namor, I was supposed to put on this list. He should be D tier with the rest of the Cabal members. I guess Iron Patriot was a lot higher, but Namor should be down here on the D tier, okay? Shadow King, Jean Grey, Emma, to me, are no-brainers for Professor X. Shadow King is such an amazing character. That cosmic villain really helps his case as far as mutant gear goes. Plug-and-play value through the roof. Jean Grey and Emma Frost X-Men are heroes. They pair so well in that global hero section. But if you're going to bring 4 Liberty members, you bench Emma, and then Emma would probably drop down. Or sorry, you bench Jean, and Jean would bump down to A tier. Emma is S. Emma Shadow King S, for sure. Sebastian Shaw. I have not played enough with Sebastian Shaw yet to really hype him up. But reading his kit, looking at his very fast speed stat, 126, very fast. His damage, the stun, just everything that this character doing seems incredibly impressive. I was pumped most for Rachel, and then when I dove into Sebastian's kit, it's like, whoa. I think he takes precedence in the global villain section now. If you have mutant gear for him, you definitely do Sebastian Shaw. Havoc, oh my god, at 128 speed stat with a stun trauma, he is one of the best Professor X counters in the game. So he had to be put up there. Absolutely had to be put up there, alright? Sebastian Shaw is a villain, Halcyon. Alright, Omega Red Phoenix Force. The Omega Red team is... The Phoenix Force team, rather, is going to be the new Undying. We're going to see them revitalized all the time. Keep them up to date. Get used to playing with those characters. I know he's epic. Maybe you only have him at 4 or 5 stars. You'll still get a lot of value out of them in Crucible. Don't sleep on them, alright? Don't sleep on them. Old Man Logan. Old Man Logan, you cannot use in Professor X, which is why he's A tier. If you could use Old Man Logan in the Professor X saga, he would be the height of S tier, even with those pre-airy stats. He's such an amazing character. Gear tier 20, he's less likely to get blown up before he can get his defensive revive and death proof and safeguard and all that rolling. Plus his damage is just, wow! Old Man Logan was... It really changed his productivity bringing him to Gear tier 20. I gotta say that. He's gotta be the top of A for me in that regard. Storm. I'm a big Crucible head. This is where the game mode kind of takes precedence for me. Storm can be absolutely used in war. Her fast speed stat, her stun, great against certain Professor X teams, is able to stun an invisible one before she goes off, right? Storm, lots of value. But for me, the real big selling point was I'm going up against a Phoenix Force team. I need her out to permakill. I needed that 20% additional damage onto Storm Salt, and boy, do you feel that damage difference. Rachel Summers, the reason I put her so high is because I need my Immortal team to be able to smash these Phoenix Force teams. And right now, it's hit and miss. With Rachel, it's going to fix it quite a bit. So she is definitely going to be high on my list of Gear Tier 20. Shaw, I have at S tier. I will still do Rachel first because I value Crucible so much more. But I just need to be unbiased when I looked at Shaw's kit. It just looks amazing, okay? Azazel. Azazel looks like he is going to help the Accursed team, but not fix their weaknesses. So if you are using a full Accursed team on offense, I think Azazel helps you to a small degree. I don't think he opens up any new doors. So if you haven't done Mordo yet, Azazel's the way to go. If you have done Mordo, Azazel drops a lot of value for me. A lot of value. Yeah. Seems like he could have some interesting plug-and-play value, though. We'll see how things go. Anytime you get Alt Turn 1 will be an interesting conversation with him, right? Phoenix, we talked about the Omega Red Phoenix Force, so kind of the same sort of idea there. Having her Gear Tier 20 does help her kind of live long enough that her going Dark Phoenix will happen at less appropriate times, I find, in a lot of the matches that I'm facing off against her. Apocalypse. Apocalypse would shoot up this list. Apocalypse would probably go in between Storm and Rachel if he didn't cost 5 mutant pieces. The fact that I could do all of Rachel and 1 of Azazel, sorry, all of Rachel and 2 of Azazel before I can do Apocalypse, that's why Apocalypse falls off quite a bit. Quite a bit for me. But he makes a big difference in Gear Tier 20. A huge difference. Emma Frost coming into the B tier. Emma Frost is interesting, right? Because she's all kit-based. Her kit did not get changed at all. She's stopping a little bit of speed stat from the enemy. That can be countered from a bunch of places right now. Fantastic Four counters that. Emma Frost X-Men counters that. My understanding is that is a bugged interaction and will be fixed soon. The characters that it's not bugged would be Nightcrawler, would be Apocalypse, would be Accursed, right? So there's a couple options that are supposed to stop the OG Emma, and there's a couple that aren't supposed to but currently are, so she loses a little bit of value there. But the thing with Emma is, unlike the rest of the Hellfire Club members, she will be used, like, how long have we been using Emma for? And she's had these completely outdated stats, right? Now that she has newly updated stats, all it's done is it's moved her lifespan from like the 4 years it has been, and it's definitely extended it another 2-3 years possibly. So Emma Frost, Gear 20 makes a whole lot of sense to me. Not having her get one shot is going to be great. When she goes diamond form and she has new stats and she's not getting overpowered, she could probably tax a lot of efficiency. So she's high on my list for sure, up at B tier. We got Dakin. Oh my god, I can't believe we're talking about Dakin. I can't believe we're putting so much pressure on these older pre-Ares characters. Dakin, with his speed bar against stealth characters, keeps popping up in the most creative places. People who are trying to use Fantastic Four on defense in war are getting obliterated by Dakin. Yeah, Dakin, Underworld, Dakin, Mercs, whatever the case may be. Dakin is just putting in so much work. So I had to put him up here. Makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, when you're facing off against the Astro teams, having Dakin a little bit higher, that feels good as well. Anytime we're going to see stealth on spawn characters in Crucible that don't stop speed bar, Dakin Old Man Logan power combo is going to be coming crazy. So yeah, Dakin's actually really good. He's a really good character, which is cool. Wolverine's kid. Alright. Yeah, he hits hard. It's weird that he hits so hard with his old stats. Madeline Pryor. Madeline is cheap. It's the only reason she's on this list at all. Madeline's speed stat is rough. I think she's like 104. Her speed stat is rough, guys. I don't know what to say. Like, you can put Gear 20 on her for sure. She hits like an absolute truck. But will she ever take a turn? Will she be controlled to death? That is the big question, man. The entire Hellfire Club team is going to be trash outside of raids. They're going to be blown apart. Rachel's going to be with Immortals. Azazel with Accursed. Shaw is going to be off doing whatever he wants to do. He does get taunt on spawn, even outside of his team. That's another reason to put Gear 20 on him. Emma's going to go off and do her thing. Madeline, I think, just goes away. I think Madeline she gets Thanos snapped away into dust. I don't see any value in putting her Gear 20. She's just too damn slow. Not loving it. Not loving it. Not loving it at all. Cable. People think that Rachel's going to be replacing Cable on the Immortal team because their passive speed bars don't mesh well together. I don't see a world where Rachel doesn't replace Beast instead. Sure, Beast is a little bit faster than Cable, but Cable's got that really nasty Terminator rewind. I just don't see a world where it's not Beast that gets replaced. So if you're trying to shore up that Immortal X-Men team, I think Cable still has that value, at least for me, for my money. And he does some pretty good damage. Plus, he can be used anywhere, right? He can be used on offense or defensive for anybody, and he's still giving them that speed bar. So Cable, I think, still has that value. Speaking of value, we got Nightcrawler coming in. Nightcrawler, old stack character. He gives them speed bar right away if he reaches his ultimate. Stripping buffs, putting slow out there. I think he's still got that value in his tank, but definitely fallen off. Daddy Azazel outperforming him, I think, in a couple regards, in a couple matches, with the right team, of course. Azazel is nothing compared to Nightcrawler as a plug-and-play. That's what, yeah, anyway, Nightcrawler D tier. Polaris. Polaris makes this list just if you're trying to make your Immortal team hit harder. I don't think I would put too much value in her. Anyway, guys, this video ended up running 40 minutes. I hope you enjoyed the commentary. That, to me, is the best characters to bring to Gear Tier 20. Not just for Professor X, but for the other game modes as well. Hope you found this informative. Hope it helped you make some decisions when it comes to Gear 20. I know it is super scarce the amount of Gear 20 we get. I am going back to farming just Gear Tier 20 after my Invisible Woman reaches her 7 stars. I think that arena team, very, very important to get them their diamonds as quickly as possible. And after that, back to Gear Tier 20, because Overpowered is such a nasty mechanic. I still hate it. I bet you guys do too. But hopefully you didn't hate this video. And if you didn't hate this video, make sure you leave a like, share with your friends, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Me and chat, we're going to talk to you later. Bye, guys.